Hi, I'm Chris. This is Reality Shadow Band. Tech support's coming out. They told me the ticket got transferred. They're coming out on Tuesday. Today, are we going over a home math uh, video? We're reacting to a home math video with a little presentation called Home Math Decoded. But first, let's go look at what I'm reacting to. So this came up in my feed a couple days ago. Fair use, by the way. I am not going to give him a like. I am subscribed because I want to see what he's doing, but I'm not going to give a like because this is a decoder because he's overcomplicating things. I've been married and divorced twice. I have one kid. He's all grown up. But not about me.
I have a question for the men. Do you guys still want to get married?
I think what you're asking is, do you want to be married? And I think that a lot of men would say, yes, I do want a partner to spend my life with. But when you say, do you want to get married? I'm not sure if you're keeping in mind all these extra steps that come before and the possible ones after. Here's a guy living in a cardboard box with his ex-wife in his house with other men. You have to keep in mind that happens with roughly 1/3 of new marriages, and that's only for the men who have the opportunity to get married, which is contingent upon a bunch of steps that have changed quite a bit over the years. So in order to
Okay, so he overcomplicates it over here, and I'm gonna simplify. You can go. I'll put a link in the description. You can go watch this whole video. So what happened in marriage? Well, all right. So here we are. School. So men have a very non-optimal learning environment. Let's put it that way for boys. Having to sit still when we're full of testosterone and all kinds of we want action. We are action oriented. We're kind of meant to be running around. Our bodies are designed for it. So yeah, non-optimal morning environment. We have Ritalin and other tranquilizers that are recommended for kids that can't sit still. Now, I was lucky enough that I could sit still because I had been kind of like just my genetics allows me to sit still when I feel like I want to, but I do need to go run around. As a little kid, I love running. I just loved it. It was so much fun. But something's happening with these schools. So the public schools, public school mostly. I mean, private schools are doing this too. So just the environment's not set up for us. There's also zero tolerance. So if boys get caught doing anything at all that's outside the really female dominated rule structure and the social idea of what boys are supposed to be able to do, which is just supposed to be, they're kind of defective girls. That's how they're kind of seen in the schooling environment, which is mostly female. And also the fake campus courts on on these college campuses is not going after girls. Let's just be honest. Yeah, reduced outside play needs for boys and fit. Going over that. Preferred learning structure for women is this class structure where he's lined up in rows and everybody's in this talking about their feelings and talking about things, and there's one person in front of me just listen quietly. Yeah, it's kind of women like that. That's definitely a women way of doing things. Men need to be hands-on. We need to prove whatever you're talking about. We don't want to prove it, which is what I did on my own free time. But like most of my people around me weren't even doing that. I didn't know this at the time. I thought they were too. Some were, like the people around me were, because they saw what I was doing. Like, this is a way to do it. Let's go prove some of this stuff or ignore it and go do something else. Preferred learning structure. Okay, so scholarships, grants, mentorships are all set up for women. They were like for men pre 65. It seemed to be a man thing, but since things happened, which I'm going to get into, yeah, that's no longer the case. It's definitely a female dominated industry and field. Yeah, current politics is running all this stuff. The whole feminism thing took over the government and the people in charge of it and running it. So it's just typical standard socialism stuff. Always happens. Yeah, so 60% of college students now are women, increasing. Women are paid more than men when they get out of school. And they don't even have to go to college. They have a really good paying job for because the preferred treatment. So here's the cycle. You meet someone, however that happens, you're like, oh my god, this is the best ever. And then you start the dating or doing the courtship, whether it lasts a day, an hour, a minute, or a week, a year. And then you get engaged. You're like, we're gonna do this, and this is when the man if we're just doing this step here, he's already this man, whoever this guy is, he's just not informed of what's happening. Because if he was, he wouldn't do this. But okay, so you get engaged, and there's a one-way track. 99% of the time it's going to go to the married, and comes next is pregnancy, and then it brings a baby along, which creates a loss of intimacy. Just being married it creates a loss of intimacy because things aren't turning out exactly how you what people were told, women were told how things were going to go, men were told how things were going to go. So that creates this dissatisfaction, which, every little thing is inspected in the relationship, which, leads to a cheating and a divorce. And then the cycle starts over again. The merry-go-round. Okay, so yeah, so at work is where men are at a loss. So we aren't engaging with work as much. There's like the labor participation rate is steadily crashing for men because we're not good enough. We're told we're not doing everything right way, and then the Me Too thing came along, and we can't mentor people or be around with people or joke around with people, with women, I should say. We could do it for men, but not mixed company ever. So that's also the reason we're just like, nah, we're not worth it. So it's just these are little nicks along the path that just add up to men just like, yeah, I'm gonna do something else. Sexual harassment is assumed versus normal male behavior. We're just like so everybody else gets to be how they want to be, but we can't be how we are, which is we're males. I mean, we could be the workforce when I was like going into it and kid and still in the corporate environments when I was younger in the 90s. It was pretty fun actually. People were kind of got along and everything, but when this sexual harassment stuff hit, it was no longer fun. That was like, okay, this is just a temporary stop. I can't be here anymore because it can't be me. And I'm told everyone else gets to be who they are, right? Gay, straight, left, right, whatever, lesbian, blah blah. But I can't be gay. I can't be straight, male, and like girls. Okay, all right, whatever. Competing with women for the same job. So the whole equal rights thing. Okay, you want to do what you want to do this. That means men are no longer really interested unless they get something out of it. Which you know what that means, either get ahead somehow or get some head somehow. That's so they're all competing for the same jobs, and this is why the mentorship's still going down, and like men are just kind of checking out and like just helping other dudes a lot of times because we know that we can rely on each other in the future and not going to fuck us over if we say the wrong word. So yeah, that's another just nick. Like, hey, we're just like gonna go try and do something else, or just not really minimize my involvement with women. This is already happening, and no one's gonna tell you this stuff. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm like halfway dead. So yeah, they're not gonna say anything. They just quietly back away and, oh, I forgot about that. I didn't know, or, oh, I'm sorry. I can help you, I guess. Blah blah. They'll fake it, right? Because that's the environment now, right? Right? Because the next thing is he didn't help me when I asked him. It's like, okay, so that's the next thing. You owe me because you didn't help me. I'm like, oh, okay. And that is kind of what's happening. So these corporations are paying attention to all this stuff, and they know what's going on with all this stuff, or they should know by now. And historically, the workplace was where the women found their mates because you could be around them all the time. You're working a lot, so you're around these people in this office and you get to know their character and how they handle problems and how they handle situations. And a lot of people, that's how they met. Come on. And that's all gone now because of the Me Too. And you can't touch me and you looked at me wrong. But and the men are also they become just an economic engine. So it's whatever they can get out of it. So if men are, incentivized, if they want to still play this game, they're going to be elbows, man. Sorry. We're competing for the same job. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get the position. Now I have to work 20% harder. Okay, men are okay with that. Actually, women aren't. They're like, oh, it's too competitive. So there's no enforced dress code. I've noticed at any of these companies, people can wear cleavage showing everything. So it's perfume up the ass, lipstick, crazy makeup, hair done up, bust up. Come on. Men do that? If I was just I had a cock thing coming out, like accentuating my Jones. Really? You think we're showing the tip of my penis right at the top of my pants? You think I would get away with that in the work environment? All right. They can touch men at any time. They can say anything without any fear. There's very rarely sexual people. If I were to bring a sexual harassment, women sexual harass me in the workplace for sure. But if I were to go to my boss and say that, he'd laugh at me, like, get the fuck out of here. But it's definitely happened to me a lot, actually. They can argue with men with no kind of raise their voice, get all uppity. Oh yeah, with no fear. Men have that fear. With other men, we have that fear. We got to stay in line because people, men, boys usually know if they've been around in the socialized in the public scene, public school, you're gonna get hit in the face if you keep it up with your mouth. And that's not sexist. It's just like you're being a dick, and that's just how we handle it between each other. So we know there's a threshold. Women don't seem to have this idea. They can just say whatever they want, and there's no repercussions. Well, the repercussions are the men back out, and you can have the corporate environment. You can have the jobs. Go out there and dig that ditch, run that line up on the high wire. Oh, okay, all right. Let's go fix a railroad line. Mm-hmm. Yeah, close the window here. Those dogs barking. Okay, so yeah, they get preferred promotions due to the DIE or DEI, whatever the fuck that crap is. Yeah, and they can also, at any time, we just a young person, as soon as they turn 18, they can start monetizing their assets in many different ways. OnlyFans is just one of them. So, and there's no shame against it. There's no one's like, oh, God, you shouldn't do that. They're like, okay, I guess that's one way to make it ahead, I guess. And then we got the whole courting and dating thing where, the men are expected to pay and required to initially bring more to the relationship. Well, you got to pay the first date. So women would still want all the old chivalry stuff that was expected, but now all the new rules. So the only people that are still following these goofy rules are simps, and America has the most simps. It's lower. Like, the younger generation are starting to pay attention to this stuff, and that's why it's becoming it builds a visible issue. People are like, where do all the good men go? All these guys want to do on these apps is pump and dump me. Yeah, it's like, well, there we go. This is the stuff. There's no easy alternatives for real sex in the United States. I mean, you go to Vegas and there's other places too, but if this OnlyFans thing keeps up, they're gonna have to legalize prostitution. I mean, I'm just saying, they're just gonna have to legalize it. Don't. And that will be the death knell. It may bring men back because they have to make money to do this, but it may be actually that's the over for marriage completely. Until we have another reset of all this. Why this is a bad idea to to allow this to go on like this. Yeah, and you're never the first, much less the 10th. But I've seen these girls talk about their body counts in the hundreds by age 25. Hundreds? Oh my God, that's like a prostitute, man. What are you doing? Porn is cheaper and easier for men. This is like a positive thing. We can use that as a release, but man, it destroys our minds. So if we use that as a release too much and we don't actually have a real relationship, it definitely warps our brains for sure. So the passport is a realistic option for men, and that's why I was really just leaving this stuff behind and going to an area where it's not quite caught up yet, and has a pretty strong culture that's going to resist it for a little while. I mean, eventually, all this is going to be taken over everywhere as long as America keeps this liberal, whatever this America thing is that's being pushed. As long as that keeps going, then all these everywhere in the world is at threat. But maybe that'll end. I don't know. It seems like it's end of empire days for America. Yeah, so the birth control happened in 1960. By 1965, it happened in 1960. They really released it, allowed it to wash over the public, and they've had this technology forever. So it's just nothing new. But allowing it to be mass consumed was a new thing. So they started in 1960, and by 1965, 27% of women were on the pill. That's the birth control pill, and then sex is easy, free, and plentiful for women. The relationships, no, but they can, they can get the Chad guy. They can, they can get this guy. He's a hunter. He doesn't know that they're prey. Anyway, so they don't get the relationships, and then women do have a global market. They can go do the Dubai porta potty or whatever and get flown out the top 5% of women or whatever. But it's not the same for them because they're just being used, right? They're just being used by these guys. And they don't understand that. They think they're going to be marrying them up. And some do. It's very rare, though. It's just, the kind of guys, no, they got a line of them. Come on. So, yeah. So Chad has a amount lined up. So unlimited choices is another 2%ers. There's another guy that looks like this that she can try and get in her DM. who's on these apps that she can then try and go nail down. Okay, right. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand that after the third man, there's no bonding with these guys, so it'll be completely transactional for these. And these guys know this. These guys know women have, once they're over five, like definitely three is the statistics, but five you're completely shot. So yeah, he knows that if it's not completely perfect fairy tale land, you're that these women aren't going to stick around anyway, so it doesn't matter. He already knows that. He's already tried. He's already tried it a dozen times. And he's done. He's over with it. So like, okay, and he's still messing with these broads. So, he's living his best life. Let's see. Zero. So there's zero shame for the body count, except for other women, which they're the only ones that are doing the slut shaming, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. And they think like I said, they think they're going to end up with the 2%er. It's like, no, and they're the ones that's who they're complaining about, right? Everyone else is everybody else is invisible, right? They don't see anything, so they only see this guy, and everyone else is invisible, and that's it's new as well. Like being the nice looking guys, that's a new thing. That's just that's definitely a psyop for these ladies. Okay, so here's the percentage of women on birth control starting at 1960. In 1972 is when the no-fault divorce happened, or 1974, somewhere in there, and that's when it peaked. And so, they got on the pill, and they were like, okay, I'm gonna go have some fun and get out of this social norm thing. And women thought, oh, there'll be no repercussions for that. Yeah. So let's see. The honeymoon is completely over 6 to 18 months after the marriage. So, or it's actually from the moment they start having sex, y'all start having sex, and people start having sex, it's 6 to 18 months. It's over by then. So all that dopamine drug high stuff is over. So you then have to deal with the real actual person underneath. Yeah, so the happiness levels return to baseline for each person, and women are not told this, and they're told that the marriage would be happiness forever after. Like I guess that's the Disneyland stuff that's been fed. It's so psychotic. Yeah, so her friends will promote divorce, so she'll start to complain. I'm not happy. No, he's a dick. He doesn't keeps the toilet seat up or whatever the fuck. He's standard human shit that don't matter at all. But it starts to become an issue because it's not that where did my high go? Where did my drug go? That's really what's going on here, and there has to be someone to blame. And they're all these women have the same issues, and they're all following the same information. So it's his fault. He's being a total asshole. Yeah. So men also have no idea this is going to happen. They're also told that there's going to be endless sex, and the woman's gonna go clean and cook and take care of them. Yeah, right. And then all this stuff starts happening. It's like, what is going on? It's like, well, welcome to America, in the 2000s. Due to the dopamine rush that most women have from the dating apps, they assume that marriage must continue this. It's nuts. They all think it's just going to be a fairy tale land afterwards with this guy. And he's never going to cheat. And he's never going to leave him. Stop. Massive delusion. So there's massive delusion there. So, and also she must be kept happy. This is now your responsibility, man. Because you've signed up to keep her happy, right? Here's the thing: you can never make somebody else happy. That's the problem. They return to the baseline. The drug high you're on was just drugs, man. Sorry, I hate to break it to you. Yeah. So she must be kept happy in the marriage, and she can quit at any time for any reason. It does not matter. So that's that no fault divorce. I think it happened in 1974. Yeah, right here is when the divorce stuff happened. So, yeah. I'll get to that slide. I'll get to that graph right this. So withholding is the number one strategy. Let's talk about withholding. Let's go a little bit about withholding. So this is the happy wife's goal. She's awesome. She's trying to repair damage that she done and letting people know, mostly men, because women don't seem to be paying attention to this stuff. But I guess some women are listening. But yeah, let's listen to what she has to say. Fair use, by the way.
So what do we withhold? What do we withhold as women when we feel our husbands are not living up to who they were supposed to be to make us feel those romantic feelings of love. The main things we withhold, and again, this is conscious and malicious and purposeful denial of what we know is, one, just part of a healthy relationship, and also what's important to our husbands as good men. So the number one thing that we withhold, and I imagine everyone in the chat could type this in right now, I'm not going to look, but you would type in the number one thing that a woman withholds in a relationship or a marriage. And the number one thing that we withhold is sex. We use sex as a weapon, that when we feel that we are not being loved and made to feel loved, and those unreasonable expectations, we withhold sex. And we can withhold sex by stopping having sex altogether. We can also withhold sex by not being present in sex and treating sex as a chore, sex as a burden of something that we have to do for our husbands, but we are like dead fish.
So this is the most common thing women do. They all do it, and nobody talks about it, and it's horrible. And so that's when they do the withholding. So that makes the man totally desperate, right, and crazy out of his head, because I don't know if women, I don't fully understand this, but they don't understand this about men. It's like we have this like poison inside us. It's like we have to get this stuff out, otherwise we become dickhead assholes. It's sort of like how when you're on your period, you kind of get grumpy and we get like that when we don't get laid. Could we compare those two? That's a good one. That's a good comparison. Yeah. So we have these different curses that we're dealing with. Okay. And yeah, so the women are encouraged to exit with the cash and prizes with the divorce empire, the divorce, the whole the divorce economy, the divorce industry. It's really sad. I am actually at this point thinking that the only people promoting marriage are the divorce people, the divorce industry, because it suckers so many guys in. All right, so you went no fault in 1969, great. And men, so they lost, so child support favors women. Men are often imprisoned for failure to pay. It's very rare that women are. How this family court takes over and violates our constitutional rights, how is this possible? I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. By the way, I am not anti-child. I am anti-marriage. You can still have kids out of wedlock. I mean, you're going to probably be out of wedlock anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And you still got to support your kids. You still support your kids. And you can stay together and not be married and still have kids, okay? So that's a thing. And nobody in the culture even gives a shit about your marriage, by the way. Nobody gives a crap. They kind of look down on you. It's like, oh, you're one of those simps. Maybe I can sucker you too. That's kind of how they're seen now. It's terrible. So all the religious stuff is gone out of it. Unless you are a religious person or a religious sect, and you're probably not going to be watching this video if you're one of those people. Stop. So it's a total scam. This marriage thing is a total scam now on men, and men are figuring it out. And I'll get into it in a second. So alimony favors women. It's rarely paid by women ever. Florida's changed their laws, which is pretty crazy, and that means still other places too. Yeah, and the custody also favors women overwhelmingly and rarely given to men, even though the outcomes are way better. The outcomes for men custody for children being like criminals, and their outcomes, it's basically the same as being in a two-parent household. But when they're with a single mom, put them in jail eventually. That's how it works, man. Boys need to be around men. Sorry, because there's a lot of stuff that we do by natural in this society that's totally has traps set around, so people gets them in the legal system. So children are often alienated. This is definitely the fact for me. My ex-wife definitely alienated my son. So, and the children are often seen by like less than 5% of the time, even though it's supposedly 50%, just due to all the stuff that happens. It's just no, it's not 50-50. That's never a thing. It's very rare. It's 50-50. It's mostly 5%. A couple weekends. It's basically not even custody. I wouldn't consider it custody. It's just, you're not really being a parent at that point. So there's no downside for women in divorce. They get 95% of them get paid, 95% get true custody, even when it's 50-50. No, they're living home with their mom, There's no penalty. There's zero penalty for parental alienation. So they can say and do and set up all kinds of stuff. And boy, my stepdad, he got through the ringer. He hasn't talked to his kids in 40 years. And it's just because of the parental alienation. There's zero downside. They can totally do some. Women are petty. Sorry, they're just very petty. And here's the divorce rate here. Started going. It's going up on its own. And I guess there was a push right there in '69. Look at all these economic issues that started coming up from that. Yeah, and it was going down here because the marriage rate's going down. This is kind of a little bit misnomer. It's just the crude divorce rate. All right, so no fault happened right here. And I just spiked this thing and just, okay. And the marriage statistics have been messed with badly. They're not really 50%. It's like 50%. It's like more like 96%. Just how they the chance of you individually getting a divorce is like 96% your first divorce, because the statistics are totally messed up. Many men are so what's the awareness about this? So many men are becoming more aware of these things. They've seen their dads or uncles go through these divorces, these crazy ass divorces, and which is why the marriage rate is falling even more quickly now. It's just starting to all catch up, and just general knowledge now. And so solutions. Unfortunately, things are going to have to get a lot worse, much worse, much worse. And there's like movements like MGTOW, which I don't believe in. Men walking away, MWA. MGTOW is men going their own way. Some of those men are very bitter, and they actually haven't tried to improve themselves. But at this point, it doesn't really matter, because the women in the West are just not really marriage material, and the environment's not set up for it. And it's just set up to basically take advantage of men who are unaware of these things, which is becoming fewer and fewer every day. And I hope at some point it'll be so few that it's not even a thing anymore, and we can maybe reverse some of these things, or just understand that it's just not for everybody. Sorry, you're just not going to have it. And you're not going to be able to do these things. So women will have to demand these reversals before men ever even consider. It's going to have to reverse for a long time. To as long as about the amount of time it's taken to this period, it has to reverse it, because most men aren't going to believe it. They're going to be like, yeah, right. He's going to change it at some point. When I do 20 years down the line, when I married you. No, they're like, no, we're not doing that. So bachelors are going to be taxed at some point. This is going to become such a problem. And bachelors are going to be taxed at a higher rate, and that may be one of the ways they do the marriage thing again. But I don't know how that's going to work. And there, I do see economic conscription, and the tax is sort of that, but they may have to say, no, you have to come out of your basement and do 1 year economic service to get men to return back to work. So that's what I see happening. And that's what my response is to home math. With what happened to marriage and its overcomplication. It's not that complicated.